Hello everybody and welcome to this Train Sim World 4 news video. Today we're going to have a look at the August roadmap that actually released on the announcement day, but thought we'd have a look at it now. So this is the official graphic. Pause here if you want to have a look at it. It's not too much of interest here. They haven't really told us anything about these routes. They just told us that there are routes coming, which is wow, so interesting. The things I won't talk about that were in the roadmap are Vorarlberg, Antelope Valley, ECML, Scotsman 60103 and Victron. So those are all of the main content bits, and that is because I am going to talk about them later in other full separate videos. I will talk about this in a separate video, but I haven't talked about it before, unlike the others. This is the Just Trains route. We've got official confirmation of what it was, although it's been rumoured to be several things already. One of the things it was rumoured to be was Preston to Blackpool, and it is that. It's just a little bit more. It is Ormskirk to Blackpool. We have Ormskirk to Preston, and then to Kirkham, and then both branches into Blackpool, north and south, and then a little branch up to Bernays, as you can see there. So it's 47 miles, set in the 1980s, lovely BR blue. 19 stations, 3 of them are disused. We have the Class 142 Pacer, Class 47-4, and the Class 08 Shunter, which come with the route. And we have additional layers of the Class 101 from Tees Valley, the Class 45 from Northern Transpennine, the LMS 8F from Spirit of Steam and Peak Forest, I believe. The Class 40 from, what's that from? Oh, that's from Heavy Freight for Northern Transpennine. The Class 31, which is a standalone DLC for Tees Valley Line. And the Class 20, which is another standalone DLC for Tees Valley Line. There are other different wagons, like there are some wagons that come from West Cornwall and various other things. I will make another video on this later, covering the route in more detail, but that's just a bit of an overview. It looks very nice. It's probably going to be sort of UK equivalent of Niedertalbahn, except a bit longer and a bit faster. You've got a 2-car diesel rail car, very detailed, very nice third-party routes. Alright, quick fire features. So these are just some new stuff that isn't really worth talking about in too much detail. So there's improved OHLE, improved rain effect, character updates, and new dioramas. You can see some of the character updates here. They can use coffee shops, which I guess is cool, a bit more realism. Fixing the passengers is a pretty pressing concern for many people, so I'm not arguing with that. Improved rain effect was necessary. Improved OHLE I don't think was super necessary. And the new dioramas, who uses dioramas? New SKA timetable. This is something that has been almost universally well received, and for good reason too. It includes new services for S-Bahn lines S6, S11, S12, S19. I believe S19 has completely new services that didn't have any before. We've got new regional express services on RE1, RE9, RE8, and regular regional services on RB27. So that is the new timetable. Obviously, we don't have individual details of what specific new stuff there is, but it is apparently a much larger timetable, much more interesting, and there's some other various freight services and new AI and static stuff around Termini. And the timetable does extend past midnight using technology and the new timetable strategy that's been laid over from West Rhine. Okay, the NEC Trenton timetable update, as this has also been reasonably well received, except people are a bit pissed off that it is locked behind a paywall, which is fair enough. This includes... this one isn't received behind a paywall. What am I talking about? This one isn't protected behind a paywall. The previous one is. Arkan is. This one, they're talking about releasing it for Trains in World 4 and Trains in World 3, and I guess that is because they announced it for Trains in World 3. So this one will have better Amtrak, better New Jersey Transit, and better Long Island Railroad train. In fact, new LIRR AI trains. They've been in scenarios, but they haven't been in the timetable mode. They will populate Penn Station. There's going to be new freight AI, as you can see, and also one playable shunting job, which is like Mike Echo 2, I believe. You can't drive the freight trains because they don't have the appropriate signalling systems, so there's nothing stopping you from crashing into the back of another train. Well, there is, but you just get kicked out by the dispatcher for running reds, but you wouldn't know you've run a red until you're on top of it. And there's also some new AI that are running on nearby lines, so at Secaucus Junction and on another line that runs past Newark Airport, I read. Southeastern high-speed improvements. There are various improvements from a member of the community, a member of the beta team, who was doing these as part of beta testing on the PC editor. So we've got the Class 700 stop boards finally being implemented as they were originally promised. New platform operational items such as departure screens, etc. Better lighting at depots and sidings. Better scenery and some depot protection at Ashford. There's new substations, fixed bugs, and new speed boards where they were missing previously. So good updates there. Definitely necessary, and a bit of a shame that Dovetail had to get someone who was doing this on unpaid labour to do all of these bug fixes that they are obligated to do themselves because they released a dodgy product. Niedertal upgrade, not much to see here except that owners of the Niedertal barn, who also own Trains in Mod 4, will receive the Deutschbahn Reggio Traffic Red livery for free for the BR628. And that will allow it to layer onto other routes because the mint green livery is only is not a modern livery, and it's appropriate for West Rhine and Intertalbahn that are not set in the present day, but it is not appropriate for modern routes, thus free new livery. Better suspension. So this one is pretty self-explanatory. We've got better suspension. It'll shake you up and down when you're going over crossings and points and etc. And that should reflect in the cab. Formation designer. There's a new formation designer. I know this has been heavily requested, but it's not been implemented in the way that most people have been requested, although it has been implemented in the only way that it really can work without ditching the physics. So all of the coaches in the formation must use the same coupling system. So if you've got AAR knuckles, you can't use a Scharfenberg. For example, they must have the same brakes. So if you've got freight cars that only have an auto brake connection, you can't couple them up to like a Class 313 that only has electro-pneumatic brakes. And they must have the same electrical connections. So you can't have a US freight loco coupled up to a Class 40, so even though they have the same couplings and the same brakes. So there's a few limitations there, but for example, you'd be able to couple two EMU, like you'd be able to couple a Class 700 and a 375, or 375 and a 377, or a 377 and a 387, or things like that, an 800 and a 395, or other just locos, and that's will be pretty cool. I think that'll be nice. I did see the formation designer come up in the Dovetail Direct stream, and I wondered why they didn't talk about it at all. But yeah, so PC editor, this is the big one. It was originally promised way back in 2019. It will release on launch for PC only, as was stated in my previous video. PC only, no console at all in any capacity, sharing, creating, etc. Console, fairly reasonably, will almost certainly never be able to create anything on the editor, only be able to play editor-made content, which, fair enough. That's just the way it is. You can't really run the editor because the editor's not made by Dovetail, more or less. It's just a repackaged version of the Unreal editor, which is a Windows application. It is a Windows application downloaded through the Epic Game Store. So I think it's actually quite reasonable that they're not offering that to console, and they're not making any promises on delivering to consoles other than being able to play editor-made content. So what can it be used for? So you can make new routes, you can make new trains, you can make new scenarios and new timetables. You cannot modify existing routes, but you can give them new timetables and new schedules and whatever. There are no guides that are going to be with it for release, so no tutorials, no nothing. There are plans to integrate it with Creators Club, and there are plans to give it more tutorials later on, and it will allow, well, they hope it will allow more third-party developers to join the franchise, which basically means they want to use it to create more content and take a cut of that without actually putting in the work. Which, might backfire, it might work. I have plans for it. I'm going to try and make a Sydney route as best I can. Obviously, rolling stock's probably going to be a hard thing. Actually, building the route will be quite easy, I reckon, because as long as you have some assets and some capability to use Blender, you can pull up basic assets. Depending on how good quality you want things, you can just reuse old assets. But things like rolling stock, obviously that's a hard one because that's pretty complicated modelling and it's mostly all going to be bespoke. Anyway, we'll see what happens, but it does mean that you can make your own much nicer professional dot pack liveries, I think. We'll see. I'll certainly be doing some videos or streams on it when Train to Mod 4 releases. And the last thing is we have new fog effects. So this is just some screenshots of the fog. This is on ECML, and it just makes for slightly nicer lighting. I'm not sure if it's a super critical feature, but a welcome addition, I guess. This looks to be on Cajon Pass or Antelope Valley. Yeah, probably Antelope Valley with a BNSF layer. And some disgusting looking foliage there. But you can see where that's all lit up around the headlight and the number lights. And this is even more so with the Vectron. And that is about it for the roadmap. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Stick around, make sure you see what else is coming up. Join the Discord server, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.